Bear down, Bears fans. Another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat, the designer, Shea, Norling in the building. A lot to get to on today's episode. First off, an amazing weekend of sports. I was fully in on baseball. I am partially a Dodgers fan now. We'll speak on that in a minute. But I don't know if that's allowed, but I'm doing it. I deserve it. A lot to get into on this episode. PFF mock draft has the Bears going all in for Abdul Carter. Is that a move that the Bears can afford to make? And I've got a hot take on who Mike Green could be. All that and more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Detroit Shea back in town.
Well,
how are you, my guy?
I'm doing well.
My
Good
Tigers the Tigers thrashed my White Sox. I will.
We did. It was a good
I
weekend.
was expecting it.
Good weekend for Detroit, bad weekend for the White Sox. It's what the White Sox are going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. It was a fun 2 games.
It's what the season's going to be.
There was a fun 2 games, and then it crashed very quickly as Sean Burke gave up like 700 runs in a single inning.
Listen, that's life. So now you're a Dodgers fan? You've given up on your hometown team and sold yourself to the Death Star?
No. So I did. I've always had a minor league team, right? My minor league team has normally been the Brewers because I used to always go to their games. But
what do you mean minor league? You mean National League?
Sorry, National League. Same thing. I've always had a National League team where I was, I'd watch the Brewers because we would go to their games and stuff like that. But it was never die hard, like, oh my God, I'm all in on the Brew Crew. If they went to the playoffs, I'd cheer for them, right? So I'm like, I could just switch my National League team because it's not my real team. So now I'm a Dodgers fan on occasion. You know what I mean?
I don't like that at all.
I don't care. You don't know why? Because I am a Sox fan, a Bulls fan, a Bears fan, and a Hawks fan. I deserve some joy in my life and my sports fandom, and I'm going on the Dodgers. I am going to cheat. I fully admit it. I am Houston Astroing this thing. Buzzers on the chest. I'm in on the Dodgers.
God bless. You're in for a magic carpet ride of a season.
Thank you.
You're going to enjoy it. But you're also going to have to stay up late to watch games a whole lot.
You know what, though? I love West Coast baseball. Like, I'll do like the first 4 or 5 innings up, and then I'll watch like the rest of the game in the bed, which now with the pitch clock makes it incredibly simple to be like, okay, this game's got an hour left.
Now that they're 2.5-hour games, and it's more of an in and out experience. Unless you went to the Cubs game yesterday, Jesus, how about an hour-long first inning?
One of the worst umpired games I've seen in a while. That was impressively bad.
The balk stuff was just, and nobody knew what was going on. Ends up being an hour-long first inning. Whatever.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. A lot of sports this weekend. A lot of good sports. I've got a couple of hot takes today. I believe that Gino Auriemma, with his championship win this weekend, became the greatest college coach to cross generations. He's gone through NIL. He's gone through before NIL when it was maybe a little chicanery. Sure. He's been coaching for 30 years and nothing has shaken him. And he's been incredibly successful at every single level. It's not like he came into the NIL era and all of a sudden he got better.
Add a decade. It's been 40 years.
40 years. I'm sorry.
The stat that blew my mind was he started coaching 15 years before Dawn Staley. And Dawn Staley is arguably one of the greatest coaches in the history of women's college basketball. She's on the Mount Rushmore. And Gino Auriemma started coaching 15 years before she did.
Yeah.
Gino Auriemma has fewer losses than Dawn Staley in his career.
That's insane. That's insane. He is so amazing. He continues to find a way to win no matter the situation that he's in. I think once you have that reputation, you get better players to come there. Of course, we know how college is going to go. But I think seeing him go from the non-NIL era to the NIL era where coaches are literally going, I'm not doing this. I quit.
Yeah.
It is so incredibly impressive to me. I left that game this weekend just going, he may be across all sports, men's, women's, whatever it is, college-wise, the greatest coach. Because we saw the greatest tap out as soon as they knew NIL was coming. Coach K was like, I'm not doing this.
I was rooting for them too. I think it's one of those things where, like, when they were at the height of their powers, I wanted to see someone top them up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, everybody wants to see the Death Star explode.
Yeah.
You want the evil empire to lose. But after a 9-year drought and people asking the question, can they do this? Can they pull this off? Can they win a title? Can they reclaim their glory? I pivot. And I'm like, I kind of like to see greatness reclaimed.
Yeah.
So I was rooting for them. I was happy with the result.
I thought,
boy, did Dawn Staley crash out.
Oh, did you see
Holy
that? Did you
smokes.
see that video? I was sitting there, I was like, somebody needs to check on her.
Yeah, she's
But
going.
who's the poor bastard that has to? Who's the guy that has to go, you okay there, Don? Yeah. Oh,
yeah, get popped in the nose. She's going in the Crash Out Hall of Fame for that one. That was unbelievable.
Phenomenal.
Just screaming, fuck, on the sideline in her chair while getting 30-pieced.
Is that the new meme of Crash Out?
It might be.
I sent it to the group chat immediately. I was like, whenever somebody needs this, I just want it to be known that this is here for you.
No, it was beautiful. It was an amazing Crash Out. And it was two things I like to see, right? Greatness reclaimed and an elite Crash Out. It's like the reason we watch sports is high-level Crash Outs.
But you know what I'll give it? A crash out at the team, right? At a crash out at what they're doing, not a crash out like we've seen in the men's side from every coach that seems to get eliminated now, that every referee in the world is hosing them.
Yeah, the Dan Hurley crash out was annoying.
You know what I mean? It's just like anytime. Hey, maybe it's the fact that your team was getting destroyed on the defensive end. Maybe it's that.
Which of the 15 2025 Dan Hurley crash outs was your favorite? 3-1-2.
And for the people in the chat, football starts now. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. The Chicago Bears podcast is brought to you by the Advantage Auto Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes, or they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana, located 30 minutes from Soldier Field, I-8094, exit 6. Make sure to tap in with the people who support the Chicago Bears podcast. All right, Shea, let's talk a little bit of ball here. We talked a lot of ball, but, not the ball that they care about in the comments.
And by the way, if you see me on my phone, I have notes on my phone. I don't get triggered by comments very often.
I knew. You want to know what's crazy? I saw the comment and I knew. I was like, this is going to put him over the edge. The fact that somebody's like, look at this unprofessional bastard.
Speaking of crash outs, you don't see me sitting here with a laptop. I don't have my notebook. You know where I keep my notes? On my phone and my computer in my pocket. Oh, look at this unprofessional piece of shit. What a disrespectful clown on his phone during a podcast. I have notes on my phone.
I love it.
I can get the PFF on my phone.
Oh, God.
I can look up stats on my phone.
Oh.
It helps me with the content that we provide you for free.
There it is. That, I'm not going to lie. I saw that comment and I was like, he will deal with people calling him all kind of horrendous names.
Oh, yeah. You want to call me fat? Look at this red-faced loser. All he's doing is talking and he's running out of breath. Do what you got to do. I don't care. It doesn't hurt me.
I knew.
I'm at home. I got a happy wife. I got a happy life. I'm good to go. I get paid. I get paid on the 15th and the 30th. It doesn't bother me. Unprofessional because he's on his phone during a podcast. I'm sorry. I missed where all my notes are splayed out on the desk in front of me. Christ.
I knew that was the one.
Everybody's got a problem in 2025 in America.
Hey, that was great. Talk about your first world problems. Oh, that was amazing. That was phenomenal. That's up there. That's up there with the Dawn Staley crash out. I love it. You were talking this morning on Cap and J Hood. You did this topic in Shout or No Shout about the PFF mock draft that has the Bears essentially going all in for Abdul Carter, trying to go up to get him. I've said if Abdul Carter is there, if it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, I would do it. I don't know if the Jimmy Johnson chart this year kind of has it not costing as much to move up. I don't know if I believe it as much. It basically is saying that you can offer a first and a third round pick to get the 4th overall pick in the draft. That feels a little not likely to happen in my mind. But are the Bears even in a position to go all in on Abdul Carter with the pieces that they still need on this team, even though, like I think most of us believe, Abdul Carter is I don't want to say generational because I hate that word. He is the top guy who is going to be a really good NFL player.
I think he's the best player in the draft.
100%. I agree.
Two things. One, I think the trade value draft chart is one of the worst things that's ever happened to NFL sports fandom. The pick that you are trading up to get is not worth what the draft value thing says it's worth.
Yeah.
It's worth what the team will take for the pick.
Yeah.
Period. They can take more than the value chart says. They can take less than the value chart says. You marry yourself to that, you're going to get yourself in trouble. It's a good starting point, but be realistic. The pick is worth what someone will pay for it, and the pick is worth what someone will sell it for. That's it.
Yeah.
What I read from PFF this morning was, look, there's a lot of stuff going on now over the weekend. A lot of smoke came up. The Titans canceled workouts with Travis Hunter and with Shedeur Sanders. People seem to believe the Titans are locked in. It's Cam Ward. That's the number one pick. We can basically,
which I believe,
cement it now. But what got interesting was there seems to be a severe fall off happening for Shedeur Sanders, which makes me wonder, was he ever that high on anybody's board? Or was it just classic media panic? People are going to take a quarterback, and the NFL was kind of laughing about it. Like, none of us see him as being that talented. Mocks I've seen now have him in the 20s.
Yeah.
A lot of people have him going 21 to Pittsburgh. If that happens, we can all just forget about Mason Graham. Basically, the only way we were ever getting Mason Graham was QB panic. You get Shedeur Sanders in. Maybe somebody freaks out and takes Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart might still be a...
Could it happen? Yeah. Absolutely. Could the Browns just go, you know what? We don't have a quarterback, and we're taking Shedeur with the number 2 pick? Of course.
Especially with the owner coming out and basically being like, we messed up.
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard an owner do that.
Nobody knows with any level of certainty what's going to happen. And I'm just making the point, like, if you're looking at where things lie now and you value it at all, Mason Graham's out the window. It's not going to happen. So if you want to make an impact and get a true game-changing type of player, either Abdul Carter or Mason Graham, who I believe are the players in this draft that are those high-impact guys, you're going to have to make a trade.
Yeah.
And PFF had the Browns trading out of the number 2 pick with the Bears, and the Bears would send them 10, 39, their 4th-round pick, and next year's first to move.
Next year's 4th?
Next year's 1st. This year's 4th. So it was like 109. Something like that.
We don't have a 4th.
Maybe a 5th.
This year's 5th. Okay. I was
pick 109.
I don't think we have a 4th. Yes.
I want to say 109. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it was 10, 39, 109, wherever that pick falls, and then next year's 1st. To go to 2 and to get Abdul Carter. And on paper, cool with it. Your defensive line will be incredible. You'll have Abdul Carter on one end, Miles Sweat on the other. Do what you want to do with your other pieces. Grady Jarrett, Andrew Billings, Javon Dexter, Dio. You do what you want to do. The defensive line would be fantastic. The problem is you make that trade, you cannot be picking in the top 10 again next year. You can't be picking in the top 15. You can't be picking in the top 20. I need you to be a playoff team. That is an all-in kind of move.
Yeah.
And I'm cool if the Bears want to say, we believe we're ready and we're all in, first-year coach, whatever. We're going to make the kind of move that makes us a contending team immediately. It just then has to work because you will mortgage your future to go and get the player of the draft.
That's a lot. Now, the difference is you're trading up to 2, which is a long way, which is going to cost you more. But even then, I feel like there are so many of those pieces in this draft. I've compared this draft a lot to the 2016 draft, where in the 2nd round, you're getting a guy like Derrick Henry, right? Like you're finding really good players throughout the entire draft. And maybe there's these great pieces at the top. But I mean, you're talking about Hall of Fame caliber players that ended up going later in that draft. To me, I do believe that is giving up that much capital for this year alone would be tough for me. Now, if you're talking about future picks, I'm one of those people who, if you believe this is going to work.
I'm sorry, I just want to correct it. It was 10, 39, 148 in a 2026 first-round pick.
Okay, that makes more sense. If I'm one of those people, if you think this is it, right? If Ryan Poles believes this is it, this is the iteration, this is what we're building, we're going to be in the 20s in the future, and we're going to be in the playoffs every year, and this is the time to go in because we've got the coach, we've got the players to do this. Now it's time to hit the ground running, give them the best player available. I'm fine giving up future capital. I'm fine giving up future first-round picks if you believe that's where you're going to be, because having a pick 30, while still an impactful player and should still be an impactful player, doesn't help me as much as having a pick 10. I understand you have to, that's a chance. That's a scary chance. But is anybody 30 going to be Abdul Carter? That's kind of what you got to weigh out. Ryan Poles talked about that at the owners' meeting. Giving up that much in this year's draft, though, there's a reason that Cleveland would want that much in this year's draft. There is a ton of talent in this year's draft. I'm not saying everyone's going to be a superstar Hall of Famer. There's all pros there. There's going to be players that are Pro Bowl caliber and like first, not the fourth call on the phone, first call on the phone, Pro Bowl caliber players there. I don't know if you can give up that much just for Abdul Carter. Also, because I think there's some other talent that might pique my interest as far as longevity and dominance at the edge rush game later on in the draft as well.
There's two ways to look at it, because what you're saying is what a lot of draft quote unquote experts have said, a lot of the analysts and a lot of NFL people have said this is a rare draft where the guy you pick at 15 is about the same as the guy you pick at 35. Yeah. The board is that close together.
Ryan Poles said 60.
Right.
Ryan Poles is like, the dude you get at like 10 could be the same dude at 60.
Now, does that mean it's a really deep draft, or does that mean everybody's kind of mid?
Everyone's mediocre.
Which to me is like, I look at it and I go, okay, Abdul Carter and Mason Graham are not those players. They're not the guys that you would select at 5, and they're the same as a guy you'd select at 40. Yeah. They're uniquely good 100%. In a bad draft year. So I could get 3 guys who are middle of the road starter level talent, like replacement level players in all likelihood, and that's fine. Or I can mortgage those players and the ability to select them to go and get the one guy. Yeah. And look, I am somebody who does think that there's a world where this team's pretty close. And I've said I'm not getting in the business of prediction because, boy, I've only been here 5 years and they have taught me that it's
no matter what you predict, they will miss.
You can buy all the hype in the world about the Bears and they will find a way.
I'm scared now. I'm saying it's probably going to be 8 to 9 wins, and they've underwhelmed me every year. I'm like, it might be 4. Wait a minute.
You give them a Maserati and a wide open road and they find a tree to drive it into. Like, that's how I've experienced this. So there's a part of me that gets a little nervous in making predictions and everything. But when you just take all of the fandom elements out, when you take all of the history of the organization out and you boil it down to, okay, Ben Johnson we think is pretty good. Dennis Allen we think is pretty good. Caleb we think can be pretty good. Yeah. The offensive line is rebuilt. On paper, if you go up and get an Abdul Carter or a Mason Graham and you fundamentally change the makeup of your defensive line, I do think this team is close enough to make that move make sense, where you could year one make yourself a contender. And a part of that's the division you play in. I think is highly competitive. You're in an NFC that is has a just frankly, there's not enough talented quarterbacks to make me worry in the NFC the way there is in the AFC, where there's all these established guys. In the NFC, it's Jaden Daniels. And if you want to throw Jared Goff into the conversation, and you want to throw Dak Prescott into the conversation, you want to throw Jalen Hurts, of course, Super Bowl champion Jalen Hurts. But there's no Josh Allen here. There's no Patrick Mahomes here. There's no Justin Herbert. There's no Joe Burrow. I think you're in a unique position because of the conference you play in and the division that you play in that you could jumpstart this thing. I wouldn't hate the move. It's not something I'd come out and go, I can't do it, because I think X player is close enough to Abdul Carter. I'm somebody who doesn't think that. Yeah. So maybe you are someone who thinks Mike Green is really close to Abdul Carter. They're comparable. We can sit it out. Maybe you believe there's still a world Mason Graham will fall to you at 10. We can wait it out. And if we don't, we'll figure something else out. That's fine. But I think it is a rare opportunity where if Cleveland doesn't know what they want to do with that pick and they want to, get a quarterback later or try to trade back into the first round and pick up a Jackson Dart or do something in that range, and they're not interested in using the number 2 pick, and you have an opportunity to go and get Abdul Carter, I would not hate doing it.
I'm fine going all in on Abdul Carter. I think the thing is, right, how all in can I get it with the future? That would be my question, right? If I'm all in on Abdul Carter, can this draft count for me heavily, right? If I go first round pick this year, I get to move up. first round pick next year, second round pick next year. You're giving up a lot of talent there. That's a long way. That's 64 picks before you get a chance to even take a look at a player. And then depending on where you're at, it could be even more than that, right? But like it's one of those things where I think the all-in has to still be within the team building. And how Ryan Poles is talking about this draft, it feels like this is the draft where if you have the picks, you can build a team. This is the draft where I'll say this.
But a part of that is you can, if you feel like you have those picks and another team feels that way, where we have a lot of holes to fill and we can get this collection of first round and mid round picks and fill our roster out. And you're the Bears and you feel like we can use these picks because the pool is viewed as close enough together to go and get the one guy. That's the same thing to me.
Well, I think the thing is for me, right? Like you're talking about going to get the one guy this year in a draft that it feels like you can come out of it with.
Sure.
What do the Bears have? 5 picks in total. You can come out of it with, it feels like 3 guys. Maybe one is the guy, and then you can get a couple of more. And you still have the second round pick in that scenario. You still got 41 in that scenario, so you still can add a player there. But if I can come out of this draft essentially a la 1983 Chicago Bears draft, where you're taking guys in the second round, you're taking guys in the third round, and you're like, that's a hit, that's a hit, that's it. That's an opportunity for you to build a team. There will be a team this year. And I think who else has a ton of picks? I think the Panthers. No, the Panthers are missing a pick. Patriots have a ton of picks this year?
Believe so.
Patriots have a ton of picks this year. If the Patriots decide to hold on to all their picks, which I think they will be back quickly. It is one of those drafts to me where it's like, hey, remember 2025 when like we got 90% of this team put together? That's the fear I have of going all in with everything in this year's draft.
You got to be right, and those players have to be good. Yeah. And yes,
if he's Myles Garrett, I'm not upset.
It's like we can just plug holes with starters using second and third round picks, just day 2 picks that we get starters with.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but a lot of times those players don't end up being starters. True. Shout out the Lions, who haven't found one with a third round pick, despite having one of the best GMs in football. Ask anyone. Certainly one of the best draft GMs in football. It can be more difficult than just saying you're giving up a starter when you give up a third round pick.
100%.
So there's the part of me that's like, can I chase an all pro versus just plugging holes with starters? And the other part that, look, they addressed a lot of this in free agency. They were very active, the Bears, 100%. In free agency and going and getting players. You brought in Dio, you brought in Grady Jarrett, you rebuilt your entire offensive line via trade or signing. I kind of just feel like, is there room for 4 more starters on this team? Or is it a rare situation where I feel like I'm comfortable going to get an all-pro?
Does that scream, though, right, that you have full belief in this coaching staff? Because that's really the question. Here's the one thing. Like, you said we think with like, I know Dennis Allen can put together a Super Bowl caliber defense.
Yeah.
I know Ben Johnson can call the best offense in the NFL. The question that we have is Ben Johnson going to get everybody to work together in a perfect world? And I mean, that's only answered when you get on the field.
I think this is the deal that you signed when you hired Ben Johnson and you didn't move on in your front office.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, the reality that Ryan Poles doesn't get another rebuild.
100%.
You get a retool. And frankly, I need you to compete.
You got to win a little bit before you retool.
We're done here.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have the benefit of time that Ben Johnson will have and that Dennis Allen will have. He's in the jackpot. He's in the pressure cooker right now.
Yeah.
And that's where, for me, I wouldn't be shocked at an all-in move, and I wouldn't totally hate it, because he's got to win right now. The pressure to compete is on that front office. His job is on competing. So if you want to go the rebuild route and just plug holes with starters and feel like you're good enough, that's great. You got to be right. It's the same thing. You can't trade up for Abdul Carter and miss.
Yeah.
But it's, what's the lesser risk for winning games this year?
Well, I think that's the question too, right? Because where do you think the team is at right now compete? No draft picks at it. Nobody's new on the team. You're not adding any pieces right now. Where's the Bears at with the coaching staff in place for compete level?
This is dependent on everything working. Does the under center offense that they're going to make Caleb Williams play in and all the offseason practices and workouts and stuff start today?
Yeah.
Does the new scheme work with Caleb? Do you have the weapons to run a Ben Johnson offense? Do you have the speed to be able to do what he needs to do? Like, will this work? That's what's super dependent on it. If it does, they could win 10, 11 games. If it doesn't, they could bottom out and people get fired.
Yeah.
But I think on paper, they have the pieces. Now, there's a world where, like, you sign Drew Dalman and he continues to be a fumble and bad snap machine and it doesn't work out. Or Joe Tooney starts to decline. Or you sign Dio to be DeMarcus Walker. Or, like, there's anything can happen.
Yes.
But if you got these moves right, I do think you can contend in your division. I think you can contend for a playoff spot, and you can be a team that'll threaten to do some damage in the playoffs.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with the Bears. Let us know how you guys feel in the comments below. Do you think the Bears should be all in on Abdul Carter? You mentioned something here that I think is interesting, especially when you talk about, right, is he the guy? Is he that all-pro guy? Is he essentially the Myles Garrett of this draft? I've got a name, and I got to watch a ton of tape this weekend, in Mike Green. And dare I say I've got a hot take that he may not be Myles Garrett, but there's another name that I really like that I think should be attached to his. We'll talk about that coming up. But first, we do got to tell you guys that Verizon is giving you a chance, Chicago Bears fans, to win the ultimate draft experience with the Road to the Draft sweepstakes. 10 lucky winners will get tickets to the first day of the 2025 draft in Green Bay, including a road trip car service from Milwaukee and hotel accommodations, plus access to the Verizon viewing zone, where you'll be taken care of like a first round pick. That's right. They will give you an extra year on the contract. I'm kidding. Hurry to select Chicago area's Verizon locations to enter by April 13th. No purchase is necessary to enter. Must be a legal U.S. resident of Illinois, age 21 or older to enter. Void where prohibited. For official rules and full details, visit www.espnchicagocontests.com. I'd love that 5th year on the deal. All right, Shea. So we're talking about Abdul Carter and what he brings. And I want to pose a different player to you in Mike Green. Where the Bears sit at 10, most mock drafts kind of have Mike Green there.
Yeah.
It seems like he's either going to be available to the Bears, maybe the Bears take him, or he ends up going 1 or 2 picks after that. They think highly of this guy to be a top 15 pick. I got an opportunity to kind of dig more into his tape this weekend because of a topic we did on the Breeze this morning about top 3 defensive ends the Bears should go after. And when I watch Mike Green's tape, and I get it, it's Marshall. The competition is the question. But I am so much reminded of the conversation that was happening around Khalil Mack when he was at Buffalo. When you look at the measurables of these two, because the first thing everybody said, well, Khalil Mack came out a lot bigger. Well, let's look at the measurables. Khalil Mack came out in 2014. Mike Green coming out 2025. Khalil Mack went 5th in the draft. Mike Green right now being projected as a possible top 10 pick here. Khalil Mack, 6'3", 251 pounds coming out of college. Right now, Mike Green, 6'4", 251 pounds coming out of college. Now, Khalil Mack had 4 years in Buffalo, so the numbers are a lot bigger. 327 tackles, 75 tackles for loss, 28.5 sacks, 16 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions. Mike Green in 2 years at Marshall, 131 tackles, 33 tackles for loss, 22.5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. I was impressed when I saw Khalil Mack had 16 forced fumbles in 4 years. That was crazy. And then I went to the draft profile, Shea. And essentially, when you look at the weaknesses on both of them, sometimes plays out of control. Sometimes the hands get a little bit high, which basically means we got to find something to say about this dude that's bad. And he played at Marshall.
Yeah, I think the easy thing to do is, like, when your games are against Louisiana Lafayette, it's harder to value the production. He had 17 sacks. He had multiple 3-sack games.
Yes.
Some of that you look at and go, okay, is that replicable in the NFL? Because look, there are Khalil Mack, same comp that you're making, a year ago at a massive sack number that was built off of a 6-sack game.
Yeah.
Which that's not like, you have to see the forest for the trees and go, okay, he had whatever it was, 18 sacks. He got 6 of them in one game. So
Which
you
is still
can't
an 11 sack season without that. That's a lot of sacks in a year.
It's a ton.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Khalil Mack had a bad year. It's just you see the massive sack number and you have to always ask yourself, can you replicate it?
Yeah.
Because there are very few guys who do. Lawrence Taylor, Myles Garrett, you put them in their own world. Aaron Donald, you put them in their own world. Most guys, you see a sack season ahead of 14 and you're like, that's never going to happen again. What I would
Robert
say,
Quinn.
Mike Green had a consistent pressure rate his sophomore season and his junior season, way fewer snaps in his sophomore season, and still pressured 16% of his snaps. Pass rush win rate, which is a geek stat that I know a lot of people are like, oh, God.
23%.
Yeah, elite. He was up there with Abdul Carter.
He's top 5 in every pass rush stat. And
the only guys who were close to Abdul Carter and Mike Green were guys who really didn't play much.
Yeah.
So they just won the very occasional snaps they were even on the field. I think Mike Green's tremendous. I know it's simple and it's a cop-out, but I do value what Abdul Carter did more
100%.
Because he did it at Penn State.
100%.
And he did it against better offensive lines. He did it against Michigan's offensive line. He did it against Ohio State's offensive line. I don't know if I've seen that from Mike Green, and it's harder to make the comp. Now, Mike Green did play Ohio State, and he had a sack against Ohio State.
Game. Think an end of game sack where they got destroyed in that game, though.
Oh, they got tanked.
It was like 56-14, I think.
But if you watch the tape of that game, it wasn't necessarily his fault. He had good reps.
He had great reps. I thought he went up against Josh Simmons, who is argued as the best tackle in this draft, but he didn't have the pressures. When I watched Mike Green against him, I was like, if he's the best tackle in this draft, Mike Green killed him.
Yeah. So there's the easy part that's like, okay, Abdul Carter was consistent with this against top flight competition.
Yes.
Mike Green was consistent with this against a significantly lesser competition. I would lean still towards Abdul Carter, but that is where the conversation comes in. Is it worth giving up 3 picks this year and a pick next year to get more proof of concept versus Mike Green, who was really good and just did it against a lesser tier? That's up to Ryan Poles.
Well, and this is the question I'd pose to you, right? Because I nobody would confuse Myles Garrett for Khalil Mack. I don't care how many 17s. Like, Khalil Mack is a elite pass rusher. Myles Garrett is one of the greatest pass rushers we've ever seen.
Yep.
That is the difference there. To save some of that draft capital, to build with other pieces that could be beneficial to this team in the long run, is it worth it to let the greatest pass rusher we've ever seen kind of player, and I don't know if Abdul Carter will be that.
I don't either.
To let that guy get past you to say, we still got a generational dude here. He's just not as good as him. But at 10, I'm coming away with a guy who, and I'll be honest with you, like, it feels like watching the tape, you're trying to tell yourself, when you watch Mike Green, you're trying to tell yourself, don't say Khalil Mack. That's what I did the entire time. I was just like, don't say somebody amazing. Don't say somebody great. And he resets the offensive line every single rep of the game. His motor never stops. He's dominant. And it's tough not to say that. I would be okay knowing, now, again, you got to get it right, but knowing I got 2 second-round picks here, that could be your Matt Forte if you want to go running back in that scenario. That could be your elite offensive lineman, or maybe a Josh Connerly who's fallen that far, and you can get him there and fix that left tackle position if that's something you're looking to do. That could be those pieces. And also, I got a dude who plays like Khalil Mack.
It depends what the conversations are in your war room. You know, if you're talking to your guys on draft night and you have an opportunity to go up and get an Abdul Carter, or you have an opportunity to go up and get a Mason Graham, and your guys are telling you these are guaranteed game breaker guys. Yep. These are just utter difference makers. They're the best players in the draft. You have a chance to go get them. Go get them. Well, then that's what you're going to do. But if your guys are telling you they're really good, we don't think they're better enough than Mike Green that we got to go do this, then you just sit and wait, and you hope Mike Green doesn't come off the board before you're ready to go.
Yeah.
But that's what it's going to be dependent on. And I am somebody, like, you know me, Mason Graham is my pick. Yeah. I think he's a total game wrecker. I think he will reset the middle of an offensive line in a way that a lot of guys don't. and he's a special player. And if you had the opportunity to go get him, you go get him. But it's easy for us. If we're wrong, nothing happens.
No, we go into the next draft and say this guy's an idiot.
Yeah, if Ryan Poles is wrong, he gets fired.
Yeah.
So that's the difference in stakes in the conversations.
It's so. I think that's such an interesting question just from the player perspective, because it's easy to say go get the generational guy, but the generational guy costs if he is that, right? I'm not saying Abdul Carter is, but I do feel like he could be. Let's take Myles Garrett out of it. Myles Garrett's different. Feels Micah Parsons-ish.
I agree.
Feels like he could be a Micah Parsons type of player.
It's also a lazy comp because they both played at Penn State. Yes. They wore the same number. They played the same position. They're very similar.
They had the same role.
I do just think Abdul Carter's a nuclear warhead.
100%. Is it more worth it to have that than, and I guess it would be taking a chance on Mike Green, although I think when you look at the tape, it's not really taking a chance.
Well, you take a guy in the top 10, you're not taking a chance.
You're not taking that much of a chance.
Getting an all-pro.
But, well, I'm just saying from the competition aspect of it, right? Remember when Khalil Mack got drafted, everybody was like, you took the guy from Buffalo 5. Like, he didn't play against top competition. He's not going to be that guy. And then Khalil Mack shows up, and he's a game wrecker. That conversation for me, where it's like you're giving up a lot, but you get Micah Parsons or Micah Parsons type of player. Is that more worth it? So much more worth it than going and getting a guy who also is going to be a Hall of Famer, a perennial all-sack guy. Like he's going to always be that 10-plus sack kind of player. He's going to be that game wrecker. Like, I don't know if it's that much more worth it, especially knowing what could be on the back end of this draft, just based on what a lot of people are saying.
Well, it comes down to a question I think I asked you a few weeks ago. If you were the Lions and you could go back to the 2023 draft, would you take Jalen Carter, or would you trade Jalen Carter for Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta? And I think with the benefit of hindsight and what we've seen out of their defensive line, you'd probably go back and trade and take Jalen Carter.
I'd take Jalen Carter,
So it just, again, comes down to what the conversation is in your war room. And if everybody in your war room and all your scouts and everybody who's done the work is telling you Abdul Carter is an all-pro, he's going to be one of the best players in football, it's a guarantee, go get him, then you do it.
Yeah.
And if they're saying he's not, then you don't. But it'll be, if he is that, then yes, it's worth it. And you will look back in a few years and go, we got really good players here, but man, it'd be different if we had Abdul Carter.
Yeah. There is always that too. Like, honestly, and I talked about this with the trade up conversation, where what was it, 2015? What draft was it that Aaron Donald came out in? 2012?
I mean, make sure.
2011, somewhere in there. Either
2014, I think.
I think it was 2014 too, somewhere in there. 2014. Kyle Fuller, I'm sorry, I always get those two mixed up, was a really good DB. He was an exceptional DB when Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks are causing pressure. He was literally one of the best in the NFL. Aaron Donald's one of the greatest pass rushers we've ever seen, and we missed him by one pick. And what if you trade up in that scenario? That's always the question, where it's like one pick away, and you have a really good player. Really good player. It didn't pan out long term with Kyle Fuller and things like that, but like he was really good when he was here. Aaron Donald's I don't even know if it's going down. He arguably is the greatest interior pass rusher in NFL history, and you missed him by one pick.
It's not the same exact situation, but it is last year's draft. We all like Rome Odunze. I think Rome Odunze is a very talented wide receiver.
Yes.
If he had been Jared Verse instead, I think the Bears would be a significantly better football team with fewer questions to answer right now.
We wouldn't be having this conversation right here.
And it's nothing to do about the quality of Rome Odunze. It's just I wanted Jared Verse. I thought you could have traded down and gotten Jared Verse. Turns out Jared Verse was the defensive rookie of the year. If he were on this team, we wouldn't be talking about Abdul Carter right now. We wouldn't be talking about Mike Green right now. We'd have Jared Verse. I think the team would have been better. And, maybe the ultimate thing is you'd still have Matt Eberflus too, and that could be a negative. And everything happens for a reason. What will be. But just making the point, like, if you believe something strongly enough that this player is the difference maker, I always err on the side of go get him.
Would you view trading up as trying to make up for I don't want to say a mistake because I do think Rome Odunze is going to be really good. I think he's going to be a ridiculously good wide receiver. Not taking Jared Verse and that, I guess missing out on Jared Verse in that situation.
I would say it's the invoice of not doing it.
Yeah.
That you do have to overcorrect a little bit because you didn't accomplish the task of finding an edge rusher to put on the opposite side of the Sweat. But I wouldn't say that I'm like making up for making a mistake. I think it's a change in philosophy. And I think it's a welcome change in philosophy. He has not been willing to trade up in the first round to this point. And he's tried. Ian Cunningham had to pull him back. Thank God.
Yeah.
But it's just we haven't.
It's crazy he was going to trade up, not for Jared Verse, for Rome Odunze.
We haven't seen him do it. So I wouldn't look at it as like, oh, now he's overcorrecting and trying to make up for lost time. You're trying a new philosophy.
Yeah.
And if they want to do that, that's great. It just has to work. There's very little they could do that I would heavily criticize. I think taking Tyler Warren would be a mistake. I think taking Ashton Genty would be a mistake. Other than that, there's not really anything I'll be unhappy with.
But I think even
if they choose Mike Green, I'm not going to come on this pod and go, fuck, man, they needed to trade for Abdul Carter because I won't even know if that was available.
Yeah.
If Mason Graham comes off the board 5 to Jacksonville and they end up with whoever, I'm not going to come out and go, oh, they fucking screwed this up again.
Yeah.
There's very few things that I would be actually angry about.
Yeah.
And even Tyler Warren or Ashton Genty just has to work. I'm not going to come in here and be like, this is a brain dead error. It just has to work. And it's not what I would do, but that's why they get paid the big bucks. And that's why his nuts are on the line and mine aren't.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. I was going to say that, like, if you go Tyler Warren, if you go Ashton Genty, I kind of feel the same way about both of them. I'm not flipping a table at this point, because I do think you did a lot in the offseason. I would look back on it and say if there's a Hall of Fame pass rusher or offensive lineman that is after the Ashton Genty pick that comes off of the board, or somebody who proves to be the defensive rookie of the year, I'm going to look back on that and go, we made the wrong pick there. That's the wrong name to have. Even with, right, I think Rome Odunze's rookie year for the role he was in was good.
Yeah, it was fine.
It was good. Like, he's the third wide receiver, maybe catch it a little bit more, but there's a lot of balls thrown out of his reach that he needs to go out, that Caleb wants him to go get. But it's not Jared Verse being defensive rookie of the year. If
you take Ashton Genty, you make him a top 10 paid running back in the league on day one.
Yes.
He has to be an all-pro. Sorry. That's the price. It's the same thing I said when they took Torrey Taylor last year. Okay, he has to be an all-pro. And if there's one starter, one successful player taken behind him, you made the wrong pick.
Oh,
Bucky Irving was one pick later. You made the wrong pick. Done. Because you know what? Here's another fun fact for everybody. If they'd taken Bucky Irving instead of Torrey Taylor, would any of you be talking about Ashton Genty today?
No. Don't even get me started on a punter conversation. Where have those people gone?
But that's
Where
just
you guys at?
But Pat, I'm making the point. You can select Ashton Genty. You can select Tyler Warren. There's no law that says you can't. But you better hope that there isn't a player at a position of need who is an all-pro behind them, or a Pro Bowler, or any level of good success, because you can't make up the impact. Tight ends and running backs do not cost as much on second contracts
100%.
as edge rushers or left tackles or defensive tackles. They don't.
And that's why when you bring up the Detroit point, I always go like Jalen Carter.
Yeah,
there's a part of me that goes Jalen Carter with Darnell Wright, and I wanted them to go offensive line in the first round, but I hope Darnell Wright has a better season this year.
Jameer Gibbs and Sam Laporta are fantastic players.
Yes.
Will either of them make anywhere close to as much money on a second contract as Jalen Carter?
No, not even. I'm not gonna lie to you. They might not be there. Jameer Gibbs maybe, Laporta maybe. Like, but if you got to pay Jared Goff eventually.
They did.
like
they paid Jared Goff. They paid Amon-Ra St. Brown.
That contract, this is the big part of the contract has to hit, is what I'm saying there. That means one of your favorite Lions probably isn't going to be on this team. That's just like when the Bears got to pay Caleb Williams, your favorite Bear probably won't be here anymore.
That's the ultimate point. And it's why, look, I won't flip the table. I'm not going to come in here and throw microphones around and crash out and scream and yell. But I would think it's a mistake, because if you could get Caleb Johnson on a day 2 contract and he's marginally worse than Ashton Genty, well, then I'm saving myself money and I have future flexibility I wouldn't otherwise have. And I probably took a player who I can, if he's good, will be worth significantly more in the open market than Ashton Genty will in 5 years.
Yeah.
That, to me, is a difference you can't make up otherwise.
And listen, like that conversation, the one thing I can guarantee, and I know we keep, everybody, I don't know if you're getting this, but it's just like anytime you do a mock draft, it's like that guy won't be there past 15.
Maybe he will.
Only 15 people can be there at 15. Like, there's only 15 people that can go 1 through 15. Somebody's going to fall. Like the conversation on Omarion Hampton, who I think is a first-round pick, but I only think there's a couple of teams that need a running back. If they don't go running back,
he's going to be day 2.
He's going to be there in day 2.
Yeah, it's pretty much
never going to be a second-round pick.
If Hampton gets past Minnesota, well, then he has to get past Washington. If he gets past Washington, he's a day 2 pick. Like that's
unless the Chiefs take him.
Which they could, but
the Chiefs need.
They've struck gold on late round running backs. Yes. I think that they're out of the picture for
probably.
It just.
But that's I feel like you brought up the Shedeur Sanders conversation. It's like I see it very difficult for the Bears to even trade back in this draft because who's taking a quarterback? The Colts need one. I doubt they're taking one.
No, they can't because they took Anthony Richardson.
Exactly. Then it's the Steelers.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no reason for the Steelers to trade up.
Yeah, that's the thing with Shedeur. The Giants signed Jameis and they signed Russell Wilson. Could they also take Shedeur Sanders at 3? Sure. Would it be baffling asset management? Yeah, I think so. So
I saw a post that said if it's Shedeur Sanders, Jameis Winston, and Russell Wilson in the locker room, the pregame prayer is going to be so fire.
It'll be nuts.
Because you're going to get Dion in there for at least one of them.
You'll have Russ doing high knees on the plane. Jameis will be talking whatever nonsense. And Dion will have Lil Yachty on the sideline to hang out with Shedeur.
He's going to try to get Shedeur's Instagram on the back.
I'm rounding out the point you're making where Tennessee takes Cam Ward. If Cleveland decides they don't need a quarterback at 2, well, I think Shedeur's getting past the Giants. And if he gets past the Giants, he ain't going to go for a while. That's just the reality.
Yep.
That's how easy it is for players to fall. So it's the same thing you said. You always say, well, Mason Graham, there's no way he'll be available past 5. Oh, really? If the Jags opt to go a different route for whatever reason, I think he'll be there past 7. So it's very easy for guys to fall in this.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think this draft, more than any, is a perfect example of it because it feels – the quarterback is different, right? But, it feels like there's an abundance of talent at almost every position. I'd say quarterback and safety is probably the weakest this year. And, I mean, depending on
wide receiver's really bad.
Yeah, because it's Ted McMillan, and now Ted McMillan, I don't even know if he's a top 10 pick anymore. And you said you didn't think he ever was, but I think he ultimately goes there, but Luther Burden had so much pedigree and was talked about as a Marvin Harrison Jr. type of player. He saw his stock fall off a lot. Kid out of Mizzou. But it's not it's a big people draft. It's what it is. I would say in wide receiver wise, and you can't quantify this perfectly, but if this is maybe even last year's wide receiver draft or a couple of years ago when we saw a bunch of them come off of the board, Isaiah Bond is probably a 4th or 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Versus this year where
Matthew Golden,
he might go late 2nd, early 3rd round.
People think Matthew Golden could go in the 1st round. Last year, please.
Yeah. That's the conversation around quarterbacks too. But it's going to be interesting to see. The Bears have a ton of opportunities and options ahead of them. I think the best part about this is, and you said it, no matter what direction you go, I'm not going to be flipping a table here because if they take Ashton Genty, that would probably be the least thing I want them to do. Ashton Genty's really good at football. Yeah. Teams all last season stacked 9 in the box against them, and he still ran for 2,000 yards in a year where the playbook was, give it to Ashton. That doesn't happen normally. He's going to be a really good football player. Tyler Warren, I think I probably have the biggest questions on. I think but Yurko said he's just tall Cole Kmet, which honestly he's the same size as Cole Kmet, so maybe he's Cole Kmet. I don't know if he's Cole Kmet. I think he's a little bit more than that, but it's one of those things where he better be Sam Laporta at least.
And for me, it's got nothing. It's never had anything to do with the quality of the player. I think Ashton Genty is the best running back in the class.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren, I'm not sure is the best tight end. I'm kind of a Colston Loveland guy.
I'm right there with you, dog. Like in the second round, let me get him.
I still think they're both fantastic players.
Yes.
It's just it's harder to find a tight end. It's harder to find an edge rusher. It's harder to find a defensive tackle. It's harder to find an elite offensive lineman than it is to find a running back or a tight end. And the salary cap, the market, all of it reflects it.
100%.
And I think you take an unnecessary risk when you talk about a running back in the top 10 or a tight end in the top 10. I do. It's just the way I feel.
Easily. No, I agree with you. And I think it's one of those you always look back on and go, this is fun. This is not. I don't think Detroit's upset that Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta are there. Well, I think Aiden Hutchinson and Jalen Carter together is a very different conversation.
Yeah. You don't think that when all their guys went down, when the guy up the middle, I'm blanking on his name. He's a beast. Aleem McNeil went down and Aiden went down and they lost another edge rusher up the side early in the season. They had to get rid of Justin Houston. You don't think that if they had Jalen Carter anchoring the middle, things wouldn't have looked so bad where they're getting gashed on the ground by Washington?
Probably. I'm not gonna lie. That was a lot of dead people on that team.
Yeah, they got killed.
I've never seen injuries like that.
No, I haven't either. They were rapid.
That was insane. Like there's not much. Listen, it would have been Jalen Carter and the rest of y'all. But he probably would have been a lot more in the quarterback's face, makes Jaden Daniels' life a lot harder.
You know what? That would have been better than Alex Anzalone and the rest of y'all.
I think we'll call it a pod on that one. Put the period there. I love that. Hey, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Let us know how you guys feel in the comments below. Do you think that the Bears should be all in on Abdul Carter? Is Mike Green a good substitute in your mind? I think he's Khalil Mack, dog. I see him. I keep telling myself, don't say Khalil Mack. Don't say Khalil Mack. He's Khalil Mack. I got to do it. I'm sorry. Well, before we get out of here, I asked Yurko this on Friday. Where's your trust level? 1 star through 5 star Ryan Poles.
1.
Oof. Yurko was 2.5. There's not a lot of trust right now in the building on Ryan Poles. Let us know how you guys feel.
You got to show me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm probably about a 3. I'm a 3-star.
I haven't moved off where I was pretty much all season, where I was one of the people saying I thought he should have lost his job.
Yeah.
And he didn't. He kept his job. He's still here. I root for him because
he's the GM of our team.
The last thing we need is for this team to overhaul the front office again.
Yeah.
But do I trust him? No. Has he done anything for me to earn his trust? No. I have to see this all work. Has he done things that I think make sense? Yes. Has he filled out a team that is on paper better than it was a year ago? Yes. Does that mean it's going to work? No.
Yeah. Welcome to the NFL. I remember how hype everybody was about the Jaguars offseason 2 years ago. Let us know how many stars you're giving Ryan Poles this offseason. How much do you trust him? All that and more. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. For Shea, Norling, your boy Pat the Designer. Bear down. One love. Peace.